and the false information that you included in it, should litigants have any expectation that you can be unbiased, especially if the federal government is involved as a party?
I know that what you're getting at in terms of the issue, but I had no communications or expectation that I was even under consideration by the White House.
But the fact is that you had spoken to Senator Scott's office about the possibility of a judicial vacancy, knowing that Senator Scott would hear about it, and then sat on the case. Let me just ask you.
I had done that when Joe Biden was president.
Senator Blumenthal questions judicial nominees on a core principle: is anyone above the law? He presses each nominee on whether they would expect top officials, like the Secretary of Defense, to obey court orders. Then the focus shifts to Judge Moe, who ruled on a Trump-related case while reportedly being considered for a federal appointment. Blumenthal challenges whether Moe should have recused himself, raising concerns about judicial ethics and the appearance of bias.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Artow, if the Secretary of Defense were sued in your courtroom as a district court judge, if you are confirmed, and you issued an order, would you expect him to obey it?
If I had jurisdiction over the matter, if I decided that it was...
You wouldn't issue an order if you didn't have jurisdiction. It's a yes or no question. Would you expect him to obey it?
I would expect all parties to obey my orders, no matter who they are.
Because an order is an order, as you just said, correct? So the Secretary of Defense ought to obey a district court order. How about you, Mr. Dudek? What do you think? Judge Dudek.
Yeah, I would expect, as Judge Artow said, all parties before me to follow my orders pending any
including
appeal.
The Secretary of Defense or any other cabinet secretary, correct?
Any party that appeared before me outside of a stay or an appeal, yes, I would expect that.
Judge Pratt?
I'd give the same answer as my friends.
Judge Moe?
Same.
Judge Artow, as you know, the president sued the Pulitzer Prize Board for defamation and conspiracy based on their awarding of a prize to journalists who reported on the Trump-Russia collusion during the 2016 election. You're familiar with that lawsuit, correct?
Yes.
You sat on the court that dismissed it.
I sat on a court that found jurisdiction, on a three-judge panel that found jurisdiction.
And you wrote a concurrence where you took a somewhat less measured approach. You essentially parroted the litigant, Trump's talking points, incorrectly calling the Russia story, quote, now debunked allegations, end quote, and you called into question the seminal Supreme Court decision in New York Times versus Sullivan, a landmark case protecting free speech and freedom of the press. Given that concurrence and the false information that you included in it, should litigants have any expectation that you can be unbiased, especially if the federal government is involved as a party?
Senator, I've been a judge. I've been a judge for 11 years. Nobody's ever questioned my integrity. With regard to, I know that what you're getting at in terms of the issue, but I had no communications or expectation that I was even under consideration by the White House when I issued that opinion. And I followed the canons. I followed the canon 3, which is the one that applies in Florida, very carefully. It requires me to take cases as they come.
Let me just ask you, because my time is limited.
Okay.
That court ruling was issued on February 12th of this year, correct?
Correct.
Had you, before that date, ever spoken to Senators Moody or Scott about the possibility of being considered for a judicial vacancy?
I had talked a few years ago with Senator Scott because Senator Scott, during the last administration, had me on his list, and his general counsel is a friend of mine. And when I came into town in November to attend the Federal Society, I just basically paid him a courtesy visit like I do every year because he's a close friend from Palm Beach County, where he used to work as an assistant state attorney. I had no expectations of anything other than the fact that I knew Senator Scott had me in high regard.
So the answer is yes. You had spoken to Senator Scott through his staff about the possibility of a judicial vacancy.
For the last several years.
Repeatedly, you had discussed with Senator Scott's staff the possibility of a judicial.
I was aware that they considered me in high regard, and that if there was an opportunity that they might consider me for it, I was asked if I had any interest in it, and I had indicated that I did. But of course, Senator Scott did not have a case before me, and I was not communicating with the White House or anybody else. Had the timing been differently, then I may have handled it differently.
Why didn't you recuse yourself from a case involving the president when you had spoken to Senator Scott's staff about the possibility of a judicial vacancy that would involve an appointment by the president who was a litigant?
Because Canon 3B requires that a judge hear and decide matters assigned to the judge except if the disqualification is required by 3E, and 3E has only 4 different bases that could possibly apply to me: personal bias or prejudice. I didn't have any personal bias or prejudice in the case. I did not serve as a lower court judge, and I had no economic interest in the subject controversy itself.
That canon 20 times, but the fact is that you had spoken to Senator Scott's office about the possibility of a judicial vacancy, knowing that Senator Scott would hear about it, and then sat on the case. Let me just ask you.
I had done that when Joe Biden was president, and that's the timing that we're talking about. I can't indefinitely not take cases because of the fact that I might have aspirations for higher office. That's not the way it works in terms of the canons.
And Senator Blumenthal, your time has run. Did you have one more quick question? Go ahead.
I have one more question. Had you spoken to anyone else, including Senator Moody, about the possibility of a judicial appointment at the federal bench?
I never spoke with Senator Moody. I never spoke with Senator Moody.
Or anyone else?
Senator, I think I passed on. I think Senator Scott passed on my resume, perhaps, and I indicated that I'm available if they have any questions. But I did not hear back from Senator Moody's office because Senator Moody was just coming into transition at the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon now to all of you. Appreciate your patience. Appreciate you being here today.